for more Excellent Way Cathedral. My name is Sharnice Hogans, and I'm here today with Pastor Robert Hogans Jr. of Flow Ministries. He is an author, a writer, and a praise and worship leader, and most of all, he is my wonderful husband. Hi, we're here again talking with Pastor Robert Hogans Jr. and about a book entitled The War. This is truly a great book. I'm excited about this interview, and I'm encouraging you to get the book. Hi, Pastor Hogans.
How you doing?
All right, The War. Woo, that's a deep word, The War.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot.
Yeah.
Build up in the war, amen. And I just want you to tell me, how did you come about putting this book together?
Well, the ward is it's a literal place because it was written from my the time I spent in the psychiatric ward.
Okay.
And it's a literal place, but it's also a figurative place because it's a place where God began to turn my life around and turn my mindset around and turn my direction around. But you know, before I went into the psychiatric ward, just having some major difficulties with myself personally, and it affected my ministry, it affected my marriage, it affected our family, and it just took me in a downward spiral to where that was a place where God began to let me know that He had picked me, and He hadn't changed His mind about me, even though, you know, I had made mistakes and I had did some things that I shouldn't have done. God allowed that time to begin to share with me to come back and be the man that I called you to be, and that just gave me hope while I was in that place. All
right. So in the midst of that, you going in that downward spiral, God dealt with you, and then that's a good thing. God can deal with you, and you receive how He was dealing with you for a turnaround. You were going downward, but you decided, I'm gonna take it up. I'm going up, and I'm changed. Right. So, do you think this affected? Did this effect start from a child? How did it in your marriage? When did it start?
I believe it started when I was a child, because when you're looking at your parents and their pastors, there's a certain standard, a criteria that you say, well, I have to live my life this way, or I'm not going to, because I'm not going to be like them. So, of course, I'm trying to live the same way that my parents was living, but I was failing miserably. So I felt like maybe God didn't choose me to be a preacher. Maybe that's not for me. Maybe that's just about my parents. So I actually told them, God didn't call me. He called you guys, but He didn't call me.
Okay. And
so, you know, it started from there, where I just seemed like I just could not match up, you know, to what I thought what a Christian was supposed to be.
But we're all different. We know that. You can't compare yourself to mom, dad, sister, brother. It's all about an individual walk with the Lord. So the thing is to have your mind made up and knowing that, and you'll know that, okay, it's me, and I'm learning and I'm growing, and you know, you just have to seek God, for direction on that. So you sought God. You explained to your parents that you wasn't called to preach, but God dealt with you. Am I correct? And you knew that you
and He
dealt on your life.
Yeah, He dealt with me in the ward. Now, previous to me going there, I had just said, you know what? I don't want to be saved. I don't want to pray, because I keep falling. I keep failing. It's not good. I'm not who I think I'm supposed to be. So I tried to do what I thought I was supposed to be. I tried to hang out, tried to, you know, do party and do all of those things. And I believe it was God's will that when we had the car accident, and the car fell on top of our car, and and that's all in the book, you know, how that accident took place, and then from there we were having blackouts in our life and our death experience at that time, and then I started having the blackouts and ended up in the psychiatric ward.
That's what I was going to ask. What sent you to the psychiatric ward? I mean, was it because of the accident and the blackouts?
It was because of the blackouts, but it was also because of depression. And you know, my depression came because it seemed like I couldn't fit in and mount up to what everybody expected me to be. And I was depressed because of that. I was depressed because when I looked in the mirror, I saw somebody who had failed, people who loved them, and people who cared about them. So that was another thing. And then failing God. So it was failing God, failing myself, failing everybody else. So just depressed. And because of that depression, because of the blackouts, I end up in the psychiatric ward. I'm there on 24-hour suicide watch. They took my shoestrings out of my shoes, and I'm there, and I'm just in a low state. You know, no one to talk to. You know, you remember you all can only come once a week or something like that. So I'm in there and just down. But God began to let me know that He did not change His mind about me, that He loved me, that He cared about me, and that no matter what I had did, He was still there to pick me up, to dust me off, to turn me around, to heal me. Because some of the hardest things that I learned about the Word is sometimes it's so hard to just forgive yourself. And I know it's a lot of people that have a hard time forgiving themselves. Even though God forgave you and people have forgiven you, sometimes it's just hard to forgive yourself. But I learned that when I began to forgive myself, because God had forgiven me, that's when my life began to turn around. I began to say, I believe I can share this message with people who just don't go to a literal place, but a figurative place in their life, like a tragedy or a divorce, or they lose their jobs, they lose their loved ones, you know, they even may be feeling like suicide. But all of those situations that you get into is a place where God can begin to speak to you and deal with you and let you know that no matter where you are, I'm here to turn you around.
Okay, Pastor. Okay, let's go back to the accident, which was in 1992. God was so good.
Yes, He was.
He spared all of our lives.
Yes.
He's such an awesome God. Another chance.
Yeah, we're on the freeway and just driving up to Lansing to hear Benny Hinn's crusade. And a young man came off the side of the freeway and landed on top of our car. Trying to commit suicide. And we just, we weren't ready, we weren't even expecting that thing to happen. But it landed on top of our car. We were all laying on the freeway in Detroit on a warm summer day in July. Traffic was backed up, you know, and none of us actually remember the freeway.
Right.
We were told about it because they took us to 4 different hospitals.
Yes, they did.
They took you to U of M in a helicopter. They took me to Grace. They took the other two to 2 different other hospitals because they didn't want to put all that trauma on one hospital. But God was so good, you know, in that situation, because we should have been dead, but we are yet alive. Thank God.
God is so good. But you know, I know when we listen about the story of the accident, the guy was depressed, trying to commit suicide. You know, that relates. I know he's gone, he passed, but the ward, you just don't know who's going through what and how they're going through it. Now, one particular thing, segment in the book, you're talking about an encounter in the room. It was an older gentleman in the room that imparted in your life. Can you tell me how did he impart in your life?
Yeah, that was really an odd situation because I get there. I've never been in the hospital before, but they put me in a room with an older Caucasian man. Okay. And when I got there earlier that day, and I was in the room. He hadn't said one word to me, nothing. And I'm laying in my bed depressed, not saying nothing. He's laying in his bed. Seemed like a sickly old man. And later on that night, he just turned to me and he said, you know, God hasn't changed His mind about you. He said, God is going to take you where you're supposed to go. You're going to fulfill your destiny. I'm like, okay. But what made it so profound is during the night, he died. they called in a team of people, and they were working on him, you know, doing the medical thing on him, you know, CPR and pressing his chest and trying to get him, and he passed. And I was like, oh my God, that had to be God, because he hadn't said anything, and then he just said those few words, and then he died. Almost as if God allowed me to go there, allowed him to stay alive, just so he could speak into my life, just so I could grab a hold of something that would help me get back on my feet.
And the good thing about God can use whomever.
He sure can.
He's so awesome. Okay, now a part in the book that's really good. This book is just awesome. You were at a phone booth, going through, trying to contact your mom. Where was your mindset at this point in time?
My mindset was, here I am, a man of God, a minister, a preacher's son, raised in the church, know what God's words say, and here I am on the east side of Detroit with no clothes on after somebody had robbed me. I'm standing here embarrassed. I'm standing here saying, what's up with me? What's wrong? Why is this happening to me? I see a phone booth. And I was very apprehensive to go there, because I said, well, if I call, you know, somebody's gonna have to come get me. I'm gonna have to reach out. You know, here I am. I'm you know, a minister. I'm somebody who have preached to people. I'm someone here that have encouraged people and prayed for people. And I'm over here, you know, in a bad state of mind. So I go over to the phone booth and I call the place where I know I could reach somebody, and it was the church. And I called the church and I let them know where I was. And when I let them know where I was, they said they were going to send somebody to get me. But I'm still over there. I'm shivering, and my state of mind was, I don't even deserve to live. I just done let God down. I done let myself down. What am I going to do? And I waited until someone came to pick me up. And that state of mind was just, I was in a low state at that particular time.
Okay, but even in the midst of your low state, God is a forgiving God.
Yes.
God is a loving God.
Yes.
God is a God that will restore you, heal you, and set you free.
Yes.
And oh my God, this book, oh, I just want to encourage the people to get this book entitled The Ward. The Ward. And you know what? They're making a movie. A movie will be made as well. I want you to get The Ward by Pastor Robert Hogan Jr. Thank you so much for this interview.